She was 12 years old. She had a basketball in her hands, sneakers on her feet, and a game to play in front of her teammates. And somewhere in that gym, on opposite ends of the same bleachers, her parents were sitting like two strangers who had never met. Two of the most photographed adults on the planet, sharing the same building, breathing the same air, watching the same daughter, and refusing to even glance in each other's direction. That gym was supposed to be the one place Northwest could just be a kid. No cameras flashing in her face. No headlines. No internet doing its forensic dissection of every micro-expression. Just a game. Just her. Just her parents in the stands like every other 12-year-old's parents. Instead, what unfolded on May 7th, 2026 became one of the most heartbreaking viral clips of the year, and almost nobody is talking about the part that actually matters. Because here is the truth nobody on social media is willing to sit with. The story everyone is sharing is wrong. The story everyone is dragging into their comment sections is wrong. The angle the gossip pages chose is wrong. And the longer I sat with this footage, the more I realized something nobody seems to be saying out loud. The viral moment from that gym is not really about Kim Kardashian. It is not really about Kanye West. It is not even about Lewis Hamilton, or Bianca Censori, or the years of custody arguments, or the Diddy song scandal, or any of the noise the algorithm is currently feeding you. The real story, the one hiding in plain sight, is about a child who has spent her entire life being used as background scenery for her parents' war. And once you see it that way, you cannot unsee it. So let me show you what actually happened that night. Let me walk you through the timeline the internet skipped over. Let me read the body language nobody bothered to interpret. And by the time we are done, I promise you will look at that bleacher footage completely differently. You will see something you missed. You will hear something you did not hear. And you will understand why, behind those cold stares and that frozen silence, there is a much darker pattern unfolding than a simple custody dispute. Stay with me, because we are not doing surface-level commentary today. We are pulling this thing apart at the bone. It started the way every Kardashian basketball story starts. A normal evening in Los Angeles. A normal middle school gym. Folding chairs lined up. Parents in hoodies. Coaches yelling out plays. The smell of rubber sneakers and floor polish. Northwest, the daughter of one of the most famous couples in modern entertainment history, suited up like any other 12-year-old, waiting for tip-off. By every reasonable standard, this should have been the most ordinary moment in her week. The smallest, quietest, most private slice of her life. And yet, the second the first camera in the stands turned around and started pointing toward those bleachers, the universe decided it had other plans. Kim Kardashian walked in. By herself. No husband on her arm. No partner trailing behind her. No new boyfriend making a grand entrance. Just Kim, settling in on one side of the gym, focused on her daughter. A few minutes later, the second wave hit. Kanye West entered through a different door, took a completely separate route through the crowd, and sat down on the opposite side of the same court. Same gym. Same daughter. Same game. Two parallel universes pretending the other one did not exist. And the parents in that gym, the other moms and dads who came to watch their own kids, immediately knew something was off. You could feel it. You could see it. You could practically taste the awkwardness in the air. Phones came out. Recordings started rolling. And the clip that ended up online, the one posted by the user known as Sayar One, exploded faster than anything else that crossed timelines that weekend. He captioned it in the bluntest way possible. Baby mama and daddy drama. 5 words. 5 words that erased every nuance, every history, every emotional bruise, every co-parenting agreement, every legal mediation, every nighttime phone call between lawyers, every quiet conversation about who would attend which event. 5 words and the internet was off to the races. People started running frame-by-frame analysis on a clip that lasted less than 30 seconds. Where did Kim sit? Where did Kanye sit? Did her eyes drift across the court? Did his jaw tighten? Did either of them clap at the same time? Did either of them smile when North scored? Did either of them look like a parent or like a performer pretending to be one? And the wildest part, almost nobody in any of those threads paused for even a single second to think about the actual 12-year-old child running up and down that court. The girl who, at some point during that game, had to glance at the stands. The girl who, like every kid playing in front of family, instinctively scanned the crowd looking for the one face that calms her nerves before a free throw. The girl who, in that moment, saw exactly what every viewer online saw. 2 parents, same room, sitting like enemies, pretending the other did not exist. And the question I want you to hold on to for the rest of this video is simple. What does that do to a child? Not in theory, not in some psychology textbook. What does that actually do to a 12-year-old whose entire emotional childhood has been live-streamed by accident? To even begin understanding why that gym felt so wrong, you have to rewind. Not to last year, not to last month, You have to go all the way back to October 2022. Because there was another basketball game. Another version of this exact same scene. Same city. Same gym vibe. Same family. Same divide. Reports from that night described Kim arriving with Saint and Psalm and Chicago in tow, while Kanye walked in alone, almost like a ghost passing through. Sources in attendance said Kanye left before the game was even over, while Kim stayed behind with the kids until the final whistle. And for those of you keeping score at home, that was the era when everything around Kanye was on fire. The interviews, the social media outbursts, the Pete Davidson feud that turned into a full-blown digital Cold War. And in the middle of every single one of those storms, there was a child trying to play basketball. Think about that for a second, because the wildest pattern in this entire saga is not the drama itself. It is the location of the drama. It is not happening at galas. It is not happening at red carpets. It is not happening at private parties where adults can scream and recover in private. It is happening at her kids' games, at her kids' practices, at her kids' middle school events. The most emotionally charged adult conflict in modern celebrity culture has consistently chosen to detonate inside rooms designed for children. And that choice, conscious or not, is the part nobody is naming clearly enough. There's a pattern here. There's been a pattern here for years. And every time the pattern repeats, the same person ends up at the center of it. A child, doing a kid thing, with cameras pointed at her parents instead of at her. Then briefly, something shifted. Around 2024, the tone seemed to soften. Multiple outlets reported that Kim and Kanye were finally finding some kind of fragile rhythm with each other. There was a moment at one of Saint's games where the two of them actually posed for photos together. Kanye reportedly even put an arm around her, brief but visible, the kind of micro-gesture the internet loves to dissect. People wanted to believe that the worst was behind them, that the chapters were closing, that for the sake of those 4 kids, North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm, the two of them had finally figured out how to coexist in the same parenting universe. But anyone who has ever watched a relationship implode in real time knows what kind of peace that was. It was not the real kind. It was the kind that comes right before the next storm. The divorce had been finalized in November of 2022. Joint custody. For children. $200,000 per month in child support, plus a 50-50 split on medical, educational, and security expenses. On paper, you could not draw up a cleaner arrangement. Off paper, it was a battlefield. Kanye started speaking publicly about feeling like a stranger to his own kids. He said the custody arrangement, in practice, did not feel like the equal split it looked like in the documents. He framed himself as a father being slowly, quietly pushed out of major decisions involving his children. Kim, on her end, refused to let those statements sit unchallenged. On the Call Her Daddy podcast in October 2025, she opened up in a way that genuinely surprised people. She insisted she had never denied Kanye access. She insisted she had never blocked him from showing up. And then she dropped the sentence that detonated like a small grenade across every fan community. She admitted it had probably been a couple of months since the children had even seen or heard from their father. A couple of months. Let that sit in your chest for a second. Not a couple of days. Not a couple of weeks. A couple of months. For a child. From a parent. And suddenly, the conversation everyone was having stopped being about celebrity gossip. It became about absence. It became about silence. It became about what it actually feels like to be a kid waiting on a phone call that just never comes. And while half the internet rushed to defend Kim, the other half rushed to defend Kanye, and both sides screamed at each other for weeks. The kids themselves had no voice in any of it. They just lived inside the consequence. Then came December 2025. Another episode. Another reveal. Kim, sitting on her own reality show, looking into the camera and describing her relationship with Kanye in one word that hit harder than any tabloid headline ever could. Toxic. She talked about moments where she felt emotionally underwater. She talked about holding herself together for the children. She talked about putting on a face she did not feel like wearing. And reports started circulating about how rigid her parenting protocols had become whenever the kids went over to Kanye's. Trusted nannies, on-site security, structured schedules for meals and bedtimes, limits on sugar, restrictions on which crowded places he could take them to. Depending on which corner of the internet you trusted, that was either deeply protective parenting from a mother trying to shield her children, or it was excessive, controlling micromanagement designed to keep a father at arm's length. There was no neutral ground. There never is anymore. And then a third voice entered the chat in a way nobody saw coming. Bianca Censori, Kanye's wife, started publicly painting a completely different picture of the man on the other side of those custody talks. She described him as someone who builds entire worlds for his children. She told the story of how he transformed an entire room into a foam-filled play space, just so the kids could jump and laugh and crash and tumble in a way they could not anywhere else. Suddenly, the internet had two completely opposing portraits of the same father. One was a chaotic, absent, distant figure being kept away by court orders and nanny schedules. The other was a creative, devoted dad turning rooms into magical play fortresses. Both versions cannot be entirely true. Or maybe the most uncomfortable answer, both versions are simultaneously, painfully true. Then came the moment that, I would argue, broke the last thin thread of trust between Kim and Kanye for good. March 2025. Kanye released a song that featured North's voice, alongside Christian King Combs and Sean Diddy Combs. Read that sentence again. A song, with a 12-year-old. Alongside two men whose last name alone has become a lightning rod in headlines for very, very serious reasons. Kim reportedly opposed her daughter being on that track from the very first moment she heard about it. According to people familiar with the situation, there was mediation. There were lawyers. There were rooms full of people trying to reach an agreement that would protect this child. And the agreement, reportedly, was that North's voice would not appear on the released version of the song. Then the song dropped, with her voice on it. Anyway, that more than any tweet, more than any podcast quote, more than any tabloid leak, was the moment everything changed. Insiders described Kim as quietly entering a new phase, where her sole mission became insulating her children from the orbit of Kanye's most controversial decisions. Kanye, on the other hand, started pushing back publicly with accusations of his own. The tension stopped feeling subtle. It started feeling structural. Like the foundation of the entire co-parenting setup had cracks running through it that no statement, no interview, no podcast, no public hug at a basketball game could ever fully patch over. And let me be very precise about why that one moment mattered so much. Because in a co-parenting relationship, agreements are the entire load-bearing wall. Agreements are the only thing standing between two people who have already proven they cannot live together. The schedules, the pickup times, the rules about social media, the rules about who gets to introduce the kids to a new partner, the rules about who gets to talk about the kids in public, the rules about which projects the kids appear in. Every single one of those agreements is a tiny brick in a wall that keeps the chaos out. When one brick gets removed, the wall does not just lose one brick. The wall loses its integrity. Suddenly, every other brick starts to feel optional. Suddenly, every other agreement starts to feel breakable. And that is the moment when the bleachers split into two sides for good. And then, just when you thought the storyline could not possibly get more crowded, a completely new character walked onto the stage. Lewis Hamilton. Yes, that Lewis Hamilton. 7-time Formula One world champion. Global icon. Walking, talking magazine cover. Early 2026, the rumors started. First, Kim and Lewis were spotted together in England. Then in Paris. Then sitting suspiciously close at the Super Bowl. And then, the move that turned rumor into reality, April 2026 dropped a video of Lewis Hamilton tearing through the streets of Tokyo in a red Ferrari, with Kim Kardashian sitting in the passenger seat looking, frankly, like the opening shot of a Netflix limited series. Not long after that, the same couple showed up at Coachella, with North in tow, and one of her friends along for the ride. That last detail, that was the one that hit different. Because Lewis Hamilton was no longer just Kim's new rumored boyfriend. He was now, very visibly, very publicly, spending real time around Kanye West's daughter. Photos circulated. Threads exploded. Reports started leaking that Kanye was not handling it well. Sources claimed he initially convinced himself that the Lewis thing was a passing tabloid moment, a publicity blip, the kind of thing that would burn itself out by the next news cycle. But as the appearances stacked up, Tokyo, Coachella, vacation photos, casual dinners, he reportedly started realizing this was not a moment. This was a chapter. And inside his own marriage, that realization, according to multiple reports, created its own ripples of strain with Bianca. So now flash forward. Place yourself back in that gym. May 7th, 2026. Imagine all of that history walking through those two separate doors. The 2022 Ghost Game. The 2024 Fake Peace. The 2025 Podcast Detonation. The Toxic Confession on television. The Nanny Protocols. The Mediation Rooms. The Broken Song Agreement. The Hamilton Ferrari video. The Coachella photos. Imagine all of that, compressed into the bodies of two adults trying to watch their daughter play a normal middle school basketball game while pretending the entire universe between them is not a minefield. That is why the gym felt off. That is why the air felt heavy. That is why the people sitting around them, parents who had no idea what was happening behind the curtain, could still feel that something was deeply, structurally wrong. But here is where I want to slow this down, because this is the part everyone is missing. The viral clip was not about a confrontation. There was no screaming, no shouting match, no security pulling people apart, no drink getting thrown, no big tabloid blowout. Nothing. What people captured on camera that night was not a fight. It was something far quieter, far colder, far more disturbing, honestly. It was the sound of two people who had once been a public love story, sitting in the same building, choosing silence as a weapon, choosing distance as a statement, choosing absence as a message. And every parent watching that video, every adult who has ever been through a hard divorce, every kid who has ever sat in a school gym scanning the bleachers for a familiar face, recognized that energy instantly. Because here is what people who have never lived through a high-conflict separation do not understand. The loudest fights are rarely the worst ones. The worst ones are the silent ones. The worst ones are the dinners where two parents do not look at each other. The worst ones are the school plays where one parent sits in row 3 and the other sits in row 12. The worst ones are the birthdays split into two parties because nobody can agree on a single cake. The worst ones are the school gyms where the kid on the court has to turn her head twice to find each parent, because they are positioned on the opposite ends of the same room like magnets repelling each other. The silence is the abuse. The silence is the message. And kids feel it before adults ever explain it to them. So now, let me give you the angle the gossip pages will not give you. Forget who is right. Forget who is wrong. Forget who started it. Forget whose lawyer drafted what document in what conference room. Forget whether Kim moved on too fast. Forget whether Kanye said too much. Forget whether Bianca should have weighed in. Forget Lewis Hamilton entirely. None of that is the actual story. The actual story is that on May 7th, 2026, a 12-year-old girl played a basketball game in front of a crowd full of strangers, and not one single adult in that gym made sure her parents were sitting somewhere that allowed her to feel safe in both directions. Not one. And that is the part the internet refuses to talk about, because that part does not generate clicks. Now let me say something carefully here. North West is not a victim in the way the internet loves to package victims. She is a confident kid. She has a personality the size of a city block. She has her own creative voice. She has her own audience. She makes things, posts things, performs things, and walks into rooms with a presence most adults could not fake on their best day. She is not a fragile object. She is a young person with agency. And anybody who has watched her grow up online has seen, very clearly, that she has been raised to be expressive, opinionated, and unafraid. That is real, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But, and this is a big but, confidence is not armor. Personality is not protection. And being raised in front of cameras does not magically inoculate a child from the impact of watching her parents act like strangers in the same room. North did not choose to be on that Diddy song. North did not choose to be the subject of trademark battles between her parents. North did not choose to have her bedroom routine debated on podcasts. North did not choose to be a topic. And on May 7th, when she ran up and down that court, she also did not choose for a stranger named Sayar One to caption her game as baby mama and daddy drama, sending that clip into 1 billion phones around the world. She inherited that. She did not opt into it. This is where the conversation needs to actually shift, because we keep treating this as a celebrity story when it is structurally a custody story. And custody stories, when stripped of the famous names, look almost identical no matter what zip code you live in. Two parents who used to love each other. A separation that broke something inside both of them. Years of negotiations. Lawyers. Court orders. Schedules. New partners entering the picture. Old wounds reopening every time a new partner walks the kids into a new environment. Phones blowing up with screenshots of social media posts. Family members taking sides. Friends drifting away. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, the only people who never asked for any of it. The kids. The thing about high-conflict co-parenting is that the harm is rarely a single explosive event. It is the accumulation. It is 1,000 small moments stacked on top of each other. One parent slightly tense at a school pickup. One parent missing a recital because of a scheduling conflict that was not really a scheduling conflict. One parent posting something cryptic online that the kids see at school. One step-parent saying something a little too sharp. One holiday split awkwardly. One vacation arranged as a power move. And then, eventually, one basketball game where both parents are technically present, but emotionally on completely different planets. Each of these moments, on its own, is survivable. Stack enough of them together, though, and they become the wallpaper of a childhood. And the children of public people carry an extra weight that most other kids of divorce never have to. They have to do all of that with an audience. They have to read the comments. They have to scroll past the memes. They have to overhear conversations in school hallways. They have to listen to other 12-year-olds quote their parents back to them. They have to live with the unsettling experience of having strangers, total strangers, on the other side of the world, feel like they have personal opinions about their family. North could not have walked into school the morning after May 7th without somebody, somewhere, saying something about her mom and dad. That is not a hypothetical. That is just what life is when you are her. Let me put a finer point on that, because it is easy to skim past. Imagine being 12 and walking into homeroom and seeing a classmate close her phone a little too fast as you walk by. Imagine knowing with absolute certainty what was just on that screen. Imagine sitting down at the cafeteria table and feeling a small pocket of silence form around you that did not exist last Friday. Imagine hearing your name whispered in a hallway and not being able to tell whether the whisper was sympathy or mockery, because at that age you cannot really tell the two apart yet. Imagine all of that hitting you before the first bell of the school day has even rung. That is the daily texture of being Northwest right now. Not the glamorous version, the actual version. The version with fluorescent lights, gym lockers, and 12-year-olds who are still figuring out what kindness even means. Now, let me steelman both Kim and Kanye for a second, because no real conversation about co-parenting works if we turn either of them into cartoon villains. Kim, by every account, has spent the last several years building structure. Structure for her kids. Structure for her brand. Structure for the chaos that surrounded her marriage. She has tried, publicly and repeatedly, to maintain a tone of grace. She has tried to set boundaries in a public way without dragging her kids into them. She has tried, even on a podcast about the most personal possible subject, to talk about Kanye without burning the entire room down. That is not nothing. That is, in many ways, what most parents in her situation would aspire to and never actually pull off. She has carried this with a level of public composure that, whether you like her or not, is genuinely difficult to maintain. And Kanye, for all the controversy, for all the public moments that have made even his fans wince, has consistently shown up. Through every cycle of headlines, through every public meltdown, through every business deal collapsing, through every wife, every interview, every reset, he has kept showing up to events involving his children. He has fought, in his own often chaotic way, to remain involved. He has resisted the easy path of vanishing into private life and letting the lawyers handle it. He has built playrooms. He has been at games. He has been at recitals. He has been at moments that millionaires with much cleaner reputations routinely skip. His method is messy. His method is loud. His method has cost him friendships and partnerships and entire industries. But the impulse to be present, has never disappeared. And dismissing him as an absent father erases something true about him too. Both of those things can be real at the same time. Kim can be doing the best she knows how with the tools she has. Kanye can love his kids deeply and still operate in ways that make co-parenting nearly impossible. Neither of those statements cancels the other. And the more honest the conversation about this family becomes, the more obvious it is that the people most hurt by the constant flattening of this story into hero versus villain are the kids themselves. Because every time someone screams that Kim is controlling, North hears it. Every time someone screams that Kanye is unhinged, North hears it. Every time someone calls one of her parents a monster, she has to process that on top of everything else a normal 12-year-old is already processing about middle school and identity and friendships and homework. Here is where the basketball game becomes something more than a moment. It becomes a symbol of a deeper breakdown that nobody is naming clearly enough. We are watching, in slow motion, the collapse of a co-parenting relationship that was probably never given a real chance to heal, because the moment it tried to heal, the internet was right there, ready to feed every flicker of progress into the next news cycle. Remember those 2024 photos with the arm around the shoulder? People treated those photos like a redemption arc. They were not. They were a fragile, tentative, half-second attempt at peace, and the internet loaded them up with so much narrative pressure that the next disagreement, whenever it inevitably came, was treated like a betrayal of some imagined storyline. There was no storyline. There were just two adults, in the middle of pain, trying to figure out how to share 4 kids. The song with Diddy and the Hamilton Ferrari clip then became the 2 specific events that broke that fragile peace beyond repair. Because once trust is broken in a co-parenting dynamic, you cannot rebuild it by attending the same events. You cannot rebuild it by sitting in the same gym. You cannot rebuild it by smiling for the same school photo. Trust gets rebuilt in private, in rooms with no cameras, in conversations nobody screenshots. And the entire infrastructure of being Kim and Kanye makes those private conversations almost impossible to even arrange. So instead, you get nights like May 7th. 2 people, 1 gym, 0 rebuilding, and a child running between 2 emotional time zones that no longer overlap. There is also a piece to this that almost nobody is naming, which is the role of every adult standing at the edges of the gym that night. The assistants, the managers, the publicists, the friends of friends, the security details, the people who, whether they meant to or not, had real influence over the seating, the entrances, the exits, the optics. Because in a moment like this, there is no innocent neutral observer. Every person who knew the dynamic and still let 2 parents enter through different doors. Every person who saw the body language and did not, even quietly, suggest the simple human gesture of one parent walking over and saying hello, just for the kid. Every person who watched it happen and reached for their phone instead of for a solution. They all became, in their own small way, part of the machine that turned a 12-year-old's basketball game into international content. That is uncomfortable to sit with. But it is true. And let me say something direct to that ring of adults, because somebody needs to. If your job is to manage a public family, and that family includes children, your number one responsibility is the kids. Not the optics, not the brand, not the next press cycle, not the next podcast clip. The kids. If you cannot get two grown parents to walk through the same door for the sake of a 12-year-old's basketball game, you have failed at the only part of the job that actually mattered that night. The clothes, the cars, the hair, the lighting, the angles, the post-event statements. All of that is downstream. Upstream is the simple question. Did the kid feel safe? If the answer is no, every other accomplishment of the evening is decoration on top of a fracture. And from what that clip showed, the answer that night was no. The footage from the game will keep traveling. That is a fact. There is no putting that clip back in the bottle. Years from now, somebody will res-hair it. 5 years from now, somebody will edit it into a documentary recap. 10 years from now, when North is in college, someone will still pull it up in a thread. That clip is now part of her permanent archive, whether she wanted it there or not. And that is a thought I want you to sit with too. Because for most kids, embarrassing family moments live inside the privacy of family memory. They eventually fade. They eventually become inside jokes. They eventually become stories told over Thanksgiving and laughed at. For kids like North, embarrassing family moments live inside a search bar. They never fade. They become hashtags. They become content. They become evergreen. So what happens next? Honestly, nobody truly knows. There will probably be more games. There will probably be more events where Kim and Kanye end up in the same physical space. There will probably be more moments where the internet pulls out the metaphorical magnifying glass and starts inspecting every gesture for clues about the state of their relationship. There will probably be more songs, more interviews, more podcast confessions, more cryptic posts, more new partners, more public reactions to those new partners, more articles about who attended what and who did not. The machine does not slow down. The machine never slows down. The only thing that can slow down is the people inside it. And right now, the two adults at the center of this story do not seem to have found a way to slow it down together. But here is the part one refused to leave out, because if you watch this far, you deserve more than just doom. You deserve at least a sliver of perspective. There is still time. There is still room. There is still possibility. Kids are remarkably resilient when even one adult in their life consistently shows up emotionally, not just physically. North has more than one. She has both parents who, in their own complicated ways, want to be there. She has a circle of siblings who go through every cycle of this with her. She has aunts and grandmothers and a family infrastructure that, whatever you think of it, does not abandon its own. And she has, despite all the headlines, demonstrated a kind of inner steadiness that suggests somebody, somewhere along the way, is doing more right than the internet gives them credit for. And if I am being completely honest with you, the most hopeful version of this story is not a clean Hollywood redemption arc. It is not a sit-down dinner where Kim and Kanye look at each other across a candle and reconcile. It is not a photo op with arms around each other at the next game. It is something far quieter, far less marketable, and far more realistic. It is two people separately choosing every single time to put one tiny brick back into the wall. A polite text, a non-passive aggressive handoff, a small gesture during a school event, a nod across a parking lot. The kind of moments that never get filmed, never get clipped, never get reposted, never get monetized. Real healing in public families almost never makes the news, because real healing is, by its nature, boring. And boring is exactly what this family probably needs more of right now. There is one more thread I want to pull on before we wrap, and it is the one that scares me the most. Because behind every public clip like this, there is a private moment that nobody sees. There is the car ride home. There is the parent who finally exhales when the gym doors close. There is the child in the back seat with her headphones in, pretending she did not notice the energy in that building. There is the late-night scroll, when the clip has already crossed into her phone, when she sees the captions, when she reads the jokes, when she sees the comments her own classmates left. That moment, that quiet private moment, is where the real damage lands. Not in the gym, not in the bleachers, not in front of strangers. It lands later, in bed, in the dark, with a phone screen lighting up a face that is still figuring out who it is becoming. So when you scroll past that bleacher clip again, and you will because algorithms do not forget, I want you to do one thing. I want you to remember what you are actually watching. You are not watching a piece of celebrity content. You are not watching a meme. You are not watching a debate prompt about who is the better parent. You are watching a 12-year-old play basketball in a gym while her parents try to figure out how to exist in the same room without becoming the news. That is it. That is the whole story. Strip away the names. Strip away the wealth. Strip away the cameras. What you are left with is something almost any kid of divorce has lived through, just at a volume that nobody else has ever had to survive. And maybe that is what makes this clip hit so many people in such a strange place. It is not really about the Kardashians. It is about that one moment from your own childhood, or your own kid's childhood, where you watched a family fracture from the inside of a gym, or a school auditorium, or a hospital waiting room, or a courthouse lobby. We project our own memories onto these famous people because they live their lives at a scale we cannot. And in that projection, sometimes we forget that the real human being in the middle of the projection is a kid. Just a kid. With a basketball. With sneakers. With teammates. With a game to play. With parents she loves in her own complicated 12-year-old way, no matter what is happening between them. With a future she has not even started to imagine yet. So now I want to throw this back to you. Because honestly, I have been talking for long enough. Tell me, what was your reaction the first time you saw that clip? Did you laugh? Did you feel awkward? Did it remind you of something from your own life? Do you think Kim and Kanye will ever, realistically, find a healthier version of co-parenting, or is the damage too deep at this point? Do you think the public should stop sharing clips like this entirely? Do you think Lewis Hamilton being around the kids was a step too far, or a normal evolution of a blended family? Do you think the kids will look back at all of this one day with anger, or with empathy, or with that strange neutral acceptance that adult children of divorce sometimes settle into? I genuinely want to know. Drop everything in the comments. The smartest takes always come from you guys, not from me. And before you go, if this video gave you a different way of looking at that moment, if it helped you slow down for even 5 minutes and think about the human beings at the center of a story the internet keeps flattening, do me one small favor. Subscribe, hit the bell, turn on notifications, because we are not done with this story. There will be more developments. There will be more interviews. There will be more cycles. And when those moments come, I am going to be right back here, doing exactly this, peeling the layers off the headlines, and asking the questions nobody else wants to ask. Until then, take care of the kids in your own life. Sit on the right side of the bleachers. Show up. Look up. Pay attention. And remember, behind every viral clip is a real person who never asked to go viral. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves out there.